us a better code. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and council members and staff and community members. My name is David Foster. I'm here to speak on behalf of Clean Water Action, and I want to focus my comments primarily to the water features in Draft 3. My overall position on CodeNext at present is neutral. It's very much still a work in progress. There are some features concerning water in Draft 3 that I support, but I also think that there is room for improvement. And I did bring a handout with me that I would like to have distributed, or I guess it's already happened. And I'm just going to hit some of the high points of that. This is a revised version of a piece that some of you have already seen. So in big picture terms, what Austin needs to do as we continue to grow, which we know we're going to do, is design our buildings so that we're mitigating flooding, that we're holding stormwater on site and cleaning up that water before it rushes into our creeks. And there are opportunities to do that in CodeNext. One of the features I like that's in Draft 3 is the so-called greenfield rule, which would require any development of 45% of impervious cover or more, or redevelopment, to retain water on site to stop some of that water from flooding into creeks and to also clean that water up. So this is a step forward. What we're seeing now is a lot of the parcels on our arterials and at the big intersections that are being redeveloped are not really doing anything to address those problems. And many of these properties that we have, these aging strip malls, were built before water quality and stormwater controls were in effect. I also support Draft 3 language that would require lots with 2 to 6 units of less than 45% cover or less to get a letter of certification from an engineer stipulating that the drainage or the flooding that results will not adversely harm neighboring properties. This is better than the nothing we're doing on these small lots right now. And I also want to caution you that among the many recommended changes that the Planning Commission made last week, they proposed eliminating this in favor of simply a letter from the developer and the owner that there will be no adverse impact on neighboring properties. And city staff said Friday that the city would not be able to enforce. So please keep this requirement for an engineer's letter in place. Another area where I think we should improve is on the water quality front. Draft 3 carries forward current requirements that a redevelopment of 8,000 square feet or more of impervious cover install water quality features. We're recommending 5,000 square feet, and that's what your own staff recommended in 2013. And they've told us they'd be happy with that. The reason they haven't recommended it is because that's what the at-large council stipulated, 8,000 square feet in 2013. So I think that's also an opportunity for improvement. I want to talk about, real briefly, another proposed amendment that the Planning Commission made last week, which I think would be truly horrible. And what this would do essentially is create a massive loophole on all water quality, tree protection, setback requirements, et cetera.
You can finish your thought.
I thank you very much. What it says is that every property would have the right to what is the percentage? 70% of its allowed impervious cover in that zone, irrespective of what these other rules are. So in other words, if you have some parcels along arterials, as you do on my neighborhood for Draft 3, that could have up to 70% impervious cover, but can't build out because of heritage trees, that developer would be able to build 63% of impervious cover or 70% of that entitlement, even if it means removing those heritage trees. And that's true of setbacks as well. You could waive the setbacks to get up to 70% of what would otherwise be allowed. Compatibility standards would be out the window, water quality controls, and so forth. That proposal essentially drives a massive loophole between just about everything that you see in Draft 3. So thank you for your time. I'll be visiting with offices in the coming days and look to make this better if we can.
Mr. Foster, your sheet seems to say 90%. Is it 70%?
Whatever the sheet says is it. Okay, I'm sorry, 90%. Okay. So you could still build up to 90%. Thank you for that correction.
So I'm understanding.
I spent hours and hours looking at this, so it's all kind of a blur. But you could do up to 90% of your entitled impervious cover, according to this Planning Commission recommendation, which would erode massively all these protections that we have in place.
So last Thursday when we were at council and they were meeting, they passed an amendment that would set a firm floor, so you would get to develop 90% of the...
That's right. This is essentially a floor. Yeah, you couldn't...
Of what would otherwise be allowed on that property.
That's correct.
Regardless of environmental features.
regardless of that, regardless of setbacks, compatibility standards, anything, tree protections, you name it.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is Dan Keshe?